Welcome, welcome. My name is G, and I want to welcome you to Allastrology. This is where we take a look at what's going on in the world by the beautiful science, the sacred art of astrology. It's just simply understanding the divine symbols, the divine meanings, the divine frequencies that were handed down and that began with Creator. Whatever Creator is for you, whatever you call your Creator, your deity, your divine blessed being. We have retrogrades coming up. This is a very normal thing with planets, but I like to talk about retrogrades because things get, think of a retrograde as like using a seasoning, salt or pepper, right? So you put a little this and put a little that, gives you some flavor. But when a retrograde occurs, it's like adding an extra dose or an extra serving or an extra dousing, right? Or an extra bam of those seasonings. So it almost feels like, whoa, that's way too salty, or holy crap, who put all this pepper in here, right? And that's what retrogrades are. They create a intensity of energy. Okay. So once we understand what the basic underlying energy is of the symbol, which is a glyph, right? I'll give you examples of what those are. And I'll talk about those definitions and those meanings of those objects, because then we really get a good idea of what our energetic weather will be, right? And then it also has a window. It's just like when your weatherman says, hey, it's going to be cloudy and overcast, between such and such days. So there was this forecast. And with that forecast, I knew to grab my umbrella or not even leave the house and just wait because I maybe didn't have an umbrella. So when we talk about the planet Neptune, I'm going to pull up a chart here real quick so that you can kind of take a peek. Here's my cursor, top right-hand corner, because there's a lot on here, but don't feel overwhelmed. There's not a whole lot of things I'm going to point to. And that's all we're going to focus on, okay? Here's my cursor. Ready? We're going to go over here. We're going down to this thing right here, like Poseidon, right? You see that little glyph? That's a glyph, right? A symbol. That's Neptune. And you see that it's in the sign of Pisces, right? Because this little thing right here is Pisces. It represents the fishes. One fish swimming to the left, one fish swimming to the right. Or if you were to take that glyph and turn it like 90 degrees, it looks like a human being with their arms raised above their head, sort of in a surrender mode, which is a meaning of Pisces, is to surrender. The fish, if one fish is swimming to the left and the other fish is swimming to the right, what it says is I can go to the left or to the right. I'm flexible. Neptune rules the sign of Pisces. What that means is that it's really powerful here. When we say something's really powerful, all we have to do is understand what Neptune means. Well, you probably have guessed a few things already. I mentioned Poseidon, so you're thinking the ocean, lots of water. You're right. A lot of this is common sense. A lot of this is trust what comes to you. All right. Trust what you know. Trust your intuitions. That's a definition. That's a word for Neptune. Intuitions. Because it's not necessarily your knowledge. I started off the beginning of this video talking about Creator and the divine knowledge. This is Neptune. This is Piscean energy. This is Jesus in the garden praying. That's Neptune energy. What did Jesus do? Jesus surrendered. Piscean energy has a whole lot of other meanings. When you see Neptune, when you see Pisces, they pretty much mean the same thing. Neptune is water. Anybody who lives near water, when you think of people who are sailors or who are out on the boat, or people who feel like they need to live in the water or near the water all the time, or a great body of water, water is emotions, and it can be very soothing. Doesn't always have to be turbulent water. It can be very serene, right? When you're around water, how does it feel? There's something that you almost feel calmed by it, right? Depending upon the kind of water and the temperature and whether you're in it or just observing it. Neptune can also represent some tricky energy. Because if you were to look into water, if you fill up a glass of water, it can make things look like the edges disappear. The definition, the defining things disappear. They kind of become fuzzy, right? So Neptune has also been known to be like murky waters. Think about murky waters. It's hard to see in murky waters, right? Because this chart in particular, this is July 28th. and it's 3:02 a.m. And this chart is pulled up because you see how Neptune is in red here. The number's 25, right? So as you read this reads as 25 degrees, and this second number is in the minutes. That's just how it is all the time in astrology. The big number is the degrees, the little number on the other side is the minutes, okay? Because the planets up in the sky, Neptune, Jupiter, Chiron, Mars, Uranus, they all move at a certain rate of speed, and they each have their own particular type of orbit. And with that, we can predict, on such and such time at such and such date, where they're going to be, what number, what degree they're going to be at, and what sign that they're in. And so when you have this idea about Pisces and how it can make something also look a little fuzzy or blurry, because we talked about how the water can be soothing and serene. So we've also learned over time that the sign of Neptune and the sign of Pisces can also mean politics and politicians and actors. I don't really need to talk much further, because if you live in the States, you see very clearly how the sign of Pisces and the sign of Leo take on a lot of some of the similar energies. Leo energy is also someone who's very powerful and bold, but Leo's also dramatic, as is Pisces, right? Because it's for the stage and screen. So actors and actresses, Neptune energy. And I also pulled Leo into this hot mess because, well, mid-July, like July 11th, we'll be having a Leo full moon, and I'll do a video on that in the next upload. For right now, understanding the keywords of the Piscean and the Neptune energy is important, because then when this retrograde begins, we'll understand what the retrograde means. Hollywood, theater, sci-fi, make-believe, drama, but it's also some other really beautiful things. I mentioned Jesus in the beginning. I mentioned going alone in the garden. So it's meditation and prayer. It's divine energy. So if you have been known to be extremely intuitive, like you just get information, you can I had a hunch, I had a feeling, your intuition, your antenna is up really high and it's in fine working order. It's like you just know certain things, right? There are other signs, very intuitive, but we'll save that for another time. Neptune. When we think about Neptune energy, I'll give you some stats real quick. Neptune takes 164 years to go through all the signs in the zodiac. So it takes 164 years to travel all the way around. This is a slow-moving planet, and its transit unfolds slowly. Transit meaning its journey, its travel, can be very helpful to understand how Neptune will affect your life by looking at what house it's in. And so that's important. To give you an example on this chart here, and if Neptune's in their third house, I know that my third house would be about how I think and what I think about, how I talk and how I communicate. So if I have Neptune there, my thinking, communication, being a little dramatic, possibly, probably a quite warm communicator. So we'll say it's a soft communicator. So people who have strong Neptune energy in that third house, meaning like this would be that, because they have their third house is filled with all Pisces, which is Neptune, right? Which means when they speak, they might even be considered soft spoken. This might be a poet, because poetry, it's all about the sound. Neptune, all about the sound, right? And if it's in the third house, it's not only thinking, but it's keeping track. It's your mind. It's also writing. It's the reporter energy. So this would be a person who might write music, because they think about, they write, they've got Neptune there. Oh, it's like soothing sounds. Okay, soothing because it's Neptune. And some would say it's the sound of the spheres meaning, the planets up in the sky. And some say things are divinely inspired. This would be that. If you've got Neptune and all this Piscean in your third house, many times what comes out of your mouth or whatever you write about, whatever you vlog about, it's going to be divinely inspired. Play an instrument, you could sing, you could perform, you might be a beautiful actor or an actress. You could even be a politician, that when you speak, people feel you, because Neptune is an empathic sign as well. It's extremely sensitive. Now, we liken that also to Cancer energy, right? Cancer is also empathic and sensitive. So is Neptune. Neptune truly is considered one of the most sensitive sign of the zodiac, believe it or not. So there's a lot of meanings and keywords I've been throwing out here when it comes to Neptune, but remember that's also Piscean energy. So if Neptune's going retrograde, that means we could expect to feel more of what I just talked about, all those keywords.